The Valoran expanse was a silent stretch of space, dark and cold. Stars glimmered like distant fires, but nothing moved between them. For millennia, the Corel Dominion had claimed this region as their own, their spires of crystal cities orbiting lifeless moons and barren planets. Their civilization was old, wise, and proud, but now it was desperate. On the capital world, Valora Prime, alarms blared in the central command tower. Archon Velra, the highest-ranking Corel officer in the sector, stared at the holographic display before her. Red dots pulsed across the map, like blood drops on black silk. The dots represented the enemy, the eclipsed swarm. It was a force unlike anything the Corel had faced before. "They are spreading too fast," said Lieutenant Marcan, his many eyes darting nervously. "Entire colonies are gone. Valora Prime is next if we do not act." Velra clenched her clawed hands. "We have sent messages to the Galactic Council. Aid will arrive soon." Marcan shook his head. "We cannot wait. The swarm consumes everything in its path. It does not negotiate. It does not stop." Velra's antennae twitched. She knew he was right, but what choice did they have? The Corel had always relied on alliances, on diplomacy, on the promise that others would honor the law of the galaxy. But the swarm had no laws, no mercy, no reason. With a trembling tone, Velra activated the emergency communication system. A bright pulse shot into the depths of space. A SOS signal. It carried every detail of the swarm's destruction, the coordinates of Valora Prime, and a plea for immediate assistance. The message repeated itself endlessly, hoping someone, anyone, would hear. Days passed. Nothing. Weeks. Still nothing. Velra walked the corridors of the command tower, her mind heavy. Outside, the moons of Valora Prime orbited silently, unaware of the growing terror. The red dots on the hologram inched closer with every passing hour. The swarm consumed entire moons in minutes, leaving only blackened shells behind. The Corel tried everything. Drones patrolled the outer atmosphere, shield generators glowed with every ounce of energy, but the swarm was relentless. Nothing seemed to stop it, and then they appeared. Velra was monitoring the sensor grid when she saw it, a fleet entering the system at incredible speed. Unlike the slow, elegant ships of the Galactic Council, these vessels were jagged, dark, and unlike anything she had ever seen. They moved like predators, weaving between asteroids with precision that was almost unnatural. Marcan squinted at the display. "What are those? They are not council ships." "No," Velra said softly. "I do not recognize their design, but they are coming directly for Valora Prime." The fleet paused just outside the planet's atmosphere. Velra activated a communication channel, sending the usual greeting, a polite request for identification. The response shocked her. The transmission was in a harsh, metallic tone. Words she did not understand, spoken with an intensity that made the walls of the command tower vibrate. Then, a line in Galactic Common, the universal language, appeared. No diplomats. Only destroyers. Velra froze. "Destroyers?" she whispered. Marcan looked at her, wide-eyed. "They are. Coming to fight," he said. "Not to help." Velra shook her head. "No. That cannot be. We sent a SOS. Surely anyone answering it would come to negotiate." But deep in her heart, she felt a chill. The ships did not slow. They did not hover politely. They scanned Valora Prime with instruments designed to detect life, movement, and energy patterns. On the bridge, alarms blared again. Red symbols flickered across the main display, marking the swarm's approach. But now another color appeared. The fleet. The strange alien ships glowed faintly with blue energy, their outlines sharp and intimidating. "They move like hunters," Marcan said, voice trembling. "Faster than anything in our records." Velra's mind raced. Could these beings, these Deathworlders, as her crew began whispering, really be the help they needed? Or had the galaxy sent something worse than the swarm itself? As the first ships entered orbit, Velra observed their actions. They did not fire. They did not attack the Corel immediately. Instead, they scanned, calculated, and moved in formations that seemed both chaotic and perfect at the same time. One small probe descended into the atmosphere, its surface reflecting the orange light of Valora Prime's sun. Velra watched it land near a swarm nest. The probe did not wait for permission or orders. It opened, releasing machines that moved like living weapons. Within minutes, the swarm creatures it targeted were gone, erased with surgical precision. Markan gasped. They kill differently, faster, smarter. They do not hesitate. Velra nodded slowly, her antennae quivering. Perhaps this is the help we needed. But at what cost? Across the planet, the first survivors of swarm attacks peeked from ruined buildings. They saw the strange machines moving through the fields, targeting the enemy with terrifying efficiency. Rumors would later call these humans Deathworlders, creatures who came from a planet so harsh that its inhabitants had learned to survive anything, and in surviving, had learned to dominate. The Corel watched in awe and fear as the humans, or their machines, erased the swarm's forward forces near the colony cities. Entire swarm units vanished before they could even reach Valora Prime's borders. Velra realized something vital. The Deathworlders did not come to negotiate or observe. They did not come to ask for permission or follow protocol. They came to win. Are they even capable of mercy? Asked Markan. Velra did not answer. She knew the answer already. They had no need for mercy. They were predators by nature. But in this, perhaps, they were the galaxy's hope. The next hours were a blur of activity. The swarm, sensing the Deathworlders' arrival, paused. Entire fleets of swarm drones hesitated, as if confused by this new predator. And then, the humans struck. From orbit, the fleet released a wave of energy weapons. The swarm's largest nest exploded in a spectacle of fire and blackened debris. Ground units, unlike anything the Corel had ever seen, moved with astonishing speed, cutting through swarm units like blades through silk. Velra observed through the bridge's viewports, jaw tight. We cannot interfere. Not yet. We can only watch and learn. Markan's eyes followed her gaze. They are incredible. The strange fleet lingered above Valora Prime like a shadow of steel and fire. Unlike the Corel ships, which gleamed with crystal elegance, these vessels were dark and jagged, lined with sharp angles and energy conduits that pulsed with deadly blue light. They did not move with grace. They moved with purpose. Each ship seemed alive, responding to threats before they appeared. In the command tower, Archon Velra paced. Her antennae twitched in tension. Beside her, Lieutenant Markan kept scanning the displays, trying to make sense of the humans' actions. They do not slow, Markan said. They ignore our signals. They do not acknowledge the SOS beyond detecting our life forms. I do not understand. Velra shook her head. We sent a call for help. Surely any species answering it would follow protocol, not attack immediately. But the humans were not attacking the Corel. Not yet. Instead, they were targeting the enemy, the swarm. The alien observers watched in awe as the Deathworlders unleashed their first wave. From orbit, strange metallic pods detached from the human ships, diving into the planet's atmosphere. They were small, cylindrical, and sleek, yet armored in a way that made them impervious to the acidic saliva and razor-like claws of the swarm. As they touched the surface, mechanical limbs unfolded, spraying energy that disintegrated the nearest swarm drones instantly. It's surgical, Markan breathed. They do not waste energy. They do not hesitate. They do not retreat. Velra felt a strange mix of fear and admiration. They are not here to negotiate. They are here to end this war. The Corel had always fought with strategy, with careful planning, and with the hope that negotiation could follow. The swarm had proven that hope was worthless. But the humans, the Deathworlders, were different. They acted as if the entire universe were their battlefield, and nothing could stand in their way. Below, on the surface of Valora Prime, Ground units from the human fleet began to move. Unlike Corel soldiers who relied on psychic coordination and energy shields, the humans were swift and brutal. Their armor adapted to terrain instantly, their weapons fired in patterns that seemed chaotic, yet devastatingly effective. The swarm met them head-on, expecting easy prey, but they found only precision, courage, and destruction. One Corel officer observing through the bridge's long-range scanners whispered to Velra, "They are fearless. They do not retreat, not even when faced with overwhelming odds." Velra nodded. "Perhaps they do not know fear as we do. Perhaps they were born to survive and to dominate." The first clash was terrifying. Swarm drones surged from the forests near Prime's equator, black and writhing like rivers of living shadow. They expected the humans to hesitate. Instead, the Deathworlders unleashed energy blasts that vaporized hundreds of drones at a time. Mechanical units charged forward, crushing the swarm under heavy armor and precise strikes. The Corel gasped. Never had they seen soldiers move. With such efficiency, such determination, such lack of hesitation, "They do not fight to survive," Markan said in disbelief. "They fight to destroy, and they succeed." Velra watched the holographic display, noting the swarm retreating for the first time in months. The Corel cities had been under siege, but now, with humans on the battlefield, hope returned. But humans were not just fighters, they were hunters. They seemed to anticipate every movement of the swarm. They did not follow formations like the Corel. They created them. They adapted instantly. When one unit was attacked from the side, another appeared from the rear. When a nest exploded, nearby units changed direction before the shockwave even hit. A human officer appeared on the main holoscreen of the command tower. She had short-cropped hair and a sharp, commanding presence. Her name, transmitted in rough galactic common, was Captain Mara Tane.
"We are here to stop the swarm," she said bluntly. "We do not negotiate. We do not delay. Survival is not optional." Velra swallowed. "Survival is," she hesitated, "what they do best, I think." The humans were not merely soldiers.
They were something the galaxy had not seen in millennia. The Corel observed with growing respect, noting their armor's adaptive capabilities, the coordination without centralized command, and the fearless use of devastating weapons. One particularly large swarm unit tried to overwhelm a small human detachment near the old Corel capital city. The humans did not flee. They split into two groups, one drawing the swarm into a trap, while the other used a device that emitted concentrated energy beams. The entire swarm unit disintegrated in moments. Markan shook his head. They are perfect predators." Velra's antennae twitched in thought. "Perhaps, but predators for a reason. They do not hesitate to act where others would falter." Outside, the orbital fleet adjusted its position. Massive energy cannons fired, cutting through the largest swarm structures near the planet's poles. The sky above Prime lit up with fire and sparks, though the humans' precision meant that very little collateral damage struck Corel structures. Still, the Corel citizens watched in fear. To them, the humans' methods were terrifying. The sky cracked open with fire, metal machines marched through the streets, and alien life forms were vaporized before they could react. Yet, amidst the fear, there was hope. The swarm's advance had stalled. Velra turned to Markan. "We sent this SOS hoping for help, but I do not think we expected this. Or perhaps we did not deserve it." Markan looked puzzled. "Deserve it?" Velra nodded slowly. "We asked for assistance. The universe sent something far beyond our understanding, something that fights like no one else. Perhaps the galaxy knew we would fail without this. The humans continued their relentless assault. They did not stop for exhaustion, fear, or mercy. Entire swarm nests were destroyed, their leaders vaporized by concentrated energy beams." Corel soldiers whispered among themselves, both horrified and amazed. "It is unlike anything we could imagine," one said. "They are not just soldiers, they are unstoppable." Velra's mind was already planning for the next phase. If these humans were the key to survival, the Corel must understand them. Their methods were alien, their speed unmatched, their courage unmatched. And yet, they were here for a reason: to fight. A human scout ship descended near the capital. It did not land. It hovered, scanning the city. Then, with a sharp command, human units deployed from it. They moved like a single organism, each individual anticipating the next's actions. Swarm creatures attacked, only to be obliterated before they could reach the humans. Velra watched with a mix of fear and awe. "They are Deathworlders," she said. The horizon of Velora Prime burned with the light of war. Smoke twisted into the sky from shattered swarm nests, and the ground trembled under the march of human machines. The Corel had never seen anything like it. Ships and soldiers moved in perfect coordination, striking with speed and precision that seemed impossible. On the command bridge, Archon Velra could hardly keep her eyes from the holographic map. Red dots, signifying swarm forces, spread across the planet. Yet blue and silver symbols moved among them, striking with surgical accuracy. "They are everywhere at once," muttered Lieutenant Marcan. "How is this even possible?" Velra's antennae twitched with worry. "It is not just strategy. It is instinct. Trained instinct. These humans, these Deathworlders, move as if the planet itself answers their commands." In the skies above, human fighter crafts weaved between the remains of destroyed swarm carriers. Their engines left trails of bright blue light, and their energy beams cut swarms apart before they could even land. Unlike Corel fleets, which relied on careful formation and planning, the Deathworlder ships adapted mid-battle, anticipating every swarm maneuver. On the ground, the true fury of the humans became clear. Armored soldiers poured from drop pods, their suits glowing with adaptive energy shields. They did not wait for the Corel to guide them. They did not stop to ask for permission. They fought. The first clash was brutal. Swarm creatures lunged at a squad of humans near the ruined Corel capital. The humans fired without hesitation. Bolts of concentrated energy tore through the swarm, vaporizing dozens at a time. Mechanical limbs struck with the force of falling trees, crushing the rest. A Corel officer whispered to Velra, They do not fear death. They do not retreat." Velra's gaze hardened. "Fear is irrelevant to them. Survival is instinct, and they kill to ensure it." The humans moved as if the battlefield were an extension of themselves. When a swarm drone tried to flank one squad, another appeared behind it, firing precise shots that disintegrated the enemy. Nests were surrounded and destroyed with explosives designed to obliterate the structures completely. From orbit, Admiral Elias Drake, the human fleet commander, observed the battle through the fleet's tactical display. His voice was calm, steady, and chilling in its confidence. "Focus on the nests," he ordered. "Clear the forward units. Draw the swarm into our kill zones." The Corel, watching and taking notes, realized something astounding. The humans fought not just to survive, they fought to end the threat completely. There was no hesitation, no mercy, no pause for reflection. Every action was calculated for maximum effect. One particularly large swarm hive, located in a mountainous region, attempted to strike back with coordinated attacks. Hundreds of drones swarmed the humans, claws extended, venom dripping, but the Deathworlders anticipated every move. Captain Maratain led a squad of soldiers up the mountain. They used jet-assisted boots to leap over chasms, energy rifles cutting down incoming drones mid-air. One human soldier threw a device that erupted in a field of energy, erasing a swarm entirely before it could react. The Krell watching were silent, stunned by the humans' coordination and precision. "They are unstoppable," Markin said. His voice trembled with a mix of fear and awe. Velra nodded slowly. "They are the galaxy's weapon. Forged not by choice but by necessity, they survived a world that demanded perfection, and now that skill extends to the battlefield." The swarm, sensing the humans' power, began to retreat strategically. Entire units pulled back, abandoning nests that had been held for decades. Yet the humans did not allow it. They pursued relentlessly. Drones, war machines, and soldiers combined in attacks so precise that the swarm's attempts to regroup failed repeatedly. In one horrifyingly brilliant maneuver, the humans used a captured swarm carrier against its own kind. They opened the hull, releasing a pulse that scrambled nearby drones' neural links. The swarm turned on itself, and the Krell watched as hundreds of enemies destroyed each other without a single human casualty. Velra could hardly believe what she saw. "We have never faced a force like this," she said. "They are not just fighters, they are destroyers." The battle reached its climax near the Krell capital. The largest swarm nest towering over the city unleashed thousands of drones in a final desperate attack. The humans responded without hesitation. Drop pods released soldiers and heavy weapons. Machines rolled forward, energy shields glowing bright against the swarm. One human unit carried a massive cannon, almost as tall as a Krell skyscraper. It fired in concentrated beams that carved paths through the swarm like rivers of blue fire. The city trembled, but the cannon's precision meant the Krell structures remained mostly intact. Captain Mara Tane led her squad into the heart of the nest. She moved with the calm efficiency of someone who had faced death countless times. Swarm drones lunged at her squad, but each human moved as one, covering each other, striking without hesitation. Velra whispered to Markan, "They are not afraid, not of death, not of destruction. Perhaps that is why they are called Deathworlders. Their world demanded survival above all else, and they learned to master it fully." Hours passed. The battle raged, with the swarm continually attempting to overwhelm the humans. Yet the Deathworlders adapted, each assault teaching them something new about the enemy. Slowly, inexorably, the swarm was crushed. Their nests were destroyed, leaders eliminated, and their advance halted. Finally, a massive detonation erupted at the central hive. One of the humans' Dreadnought-class ships had positioned itself over the nest and fired a concentrated energy pulse. The hive erupted in a blinding explosion that could be seen from orbit. Smoke, fire, and debris filled the skies. For a moment, the Krell feared their capital would be destroyed as well, but the humans had calculated perfectly. The smoke cleared. The swarm was gone. Valora Prime had survived. Krell citizens emerged from shelters, staring at the humans and their machines in awe. They had expected diplomats, helpers, or cautious allies. Instead, they had received predators, warriors, and destroyers, the kind of beings who could fight through impossible odds and win. Archon Velra approached Captain Mara Tane as the humans regrouped near the city. Why would you come so far, risk so much for a species you do not know?" she asked. Tane's face was serious, her eyes steady. "Because the swarm does not stop for anyone. Someone would have to stop it. Your species was next. Survival is not a choice. It is a responsibility. We answer when others cannot or will not." Velra realized then the full truth of what she had witnessed. The humans were not just warriors. They were survivors, honed by a harsh world that demanded perfection, courage, and resilience. They came not to ask for permission but to act, and in their actions lay the salvation of Valora Prime. Markan stood beside Velra, still shaking with disbelief. We sent an SOS, and the universe sent this." Velra nodded slowly, antennae quivering. "It is not what we expected. It is far beyond what we imagined. And perhaps it is exactly what we needed." The battlefield was quiet now, except for the hum of human machinery and the flicker of fires in the distance. The swarm was defeated for now. Valora Prime remained standing, and the Krell understood finally that the Deathworlders were more than allies. They were a force the galaxy had never seen before, a force born of survival, born of struggle, and forged in the harshest conditions imaginable. The SOS had been answered, but not with mercy, not with negotiation, not with hesitation. It had been answered with fire, precision, and unstoppable determination. The galaxy would never forget the day the Deathworlders arrived on Valora Prime. And for Velra, Markan, and all the Krell, the future now held hope, tempered with awe and fear, for the beings who had turned desperation into victory. Valora Prime was quiet now, but the silence was heavy. Smoke rose from the shattered swarm nests, and the once golden cities of the Krell were scarred with craters and debris. The battle had been won, but the cost was clear. Archon Velra walked among the ruins, her multi-eyed gaze taking in the destruction and the strange figures moving through it. The humans, the Deathworlders, patrolled the streets with calm efficiency. Their armor gleamed faintly in the orange sunlight, and their weapons were always ready. Not a single civilian had been harmed, Yet the swarm that had terrorized the planet for months was completely gone. Lieutenant Markan followed her silently. He had expected the humans to be terrifying in war, but seeing them in the aftermath was something else entirely. They did not celebrate. They did not speak of glory. They moved with quiet purpose, helping Corel survivors where needed and dismantling hazardous swarm devices. They are different, Markan murmured. Not just in battle. Even now they act as if everything they touch must survive or be cleaned. Velra nodded. Their world shaped them. That is clear. They do not fear loss. They anticipate it. They do not hesitate. They act. As the humans secured the city, Velra finally approached Admiral Elias Drake, the leader of the Deathworlder fleet. He stood atop a ruined plaza, surveying the city with his usual calm, calculating demeanor. His presence was commanding yet quiet, as if the weight of the universe rested on his shoulders, but he carried it lightly. Admiral, Velra began, her voice trembling slightly. We cannot thank you enough. Your arrival, it saved us. The swarm would have destroyed Valora Prime without you. Drake's eyes, sharp and unyielding, met hers. You sent a SOS, he said simply. We answered. That is all. Velra's antennae twitched in frustration. It is more than that. You risked everything. Why? Why come so far for a species you do not know? Drake looked toward the horizon where the smoke from the destroyed swarm nests still rose in plumes. Because someone once answered our call, he said quietly. Earth is harsh. Our world demanded that we survive everything. That we survive when all seems impossible. And when we learned that others might face impossible odds, we acted. Velra studied him, trying to understand. You do this because of loyalty? He shook his head. Not loyalty, responsibility. Survival is not something to hope for. It is something to act for. Markan's eyes widened. They see life as a challenge. Everything must be tested. Everything must be faced, and they succeed, Velra nodded slowly. The humans were different from anyone she had ever known. Other species would have hesitated, debated, or demanded terms. But the Deathworlders acted. They did not wait. They did not question. They did not falter. They survived, and they destroyed what threatened survival. A Corel historian who had been observing the humans from a safe distance approached Velra. Archon, she said, her tone trembling, I believe the legends are true. Their homeworld is called a Deathworld. Everything there is dangerous. Gravity, beast, storms. Nothing survives easily. And yet, they do. They not only survive, they thrive, and they bring that power with them. Velra closed her eyes for a moment. I understand now. The galaxy warned us about humans, that they are dangerous, unmanageable, unpredictable, but that is exactly why they can save us. Meanwhile, human engineers worked among Corel structures, repairing what they could, dismantling swarm devices, and ensuring no danger remained. They spoke little, and when they did, it was precise, clear, and without arrogance. Captain Mara Tain approached Velra and Markan. Her presence was strong yet calm. Your people will need guidance, she said. Not because we do not trust them, but because the swarm leaves traps we cannot always see. You must learn to think like us, to anticipate, to act, to survive without hesitation. Velra nodded. And if we fail? Tan's expression was serious. Then the galaxy loses another world. But you will not fail. You have learned from us. You have seen what survival demands. Velra's thoughts drifted to the SOS that had begun this chain of events. For so long, the Corel had hoped for polite assistance, for diplomatic intervention, for aid that followed rules and ceremonies. They had not expected the Deathworlders. They had not expected humans who would act without asking, fight without mercy, and destroy without hesitation, but in doing so, save countless lives. Markan's voice broke her reverie. Archon, they are frightening, and yet they inspire us. I have never seen a force like this. Velra looked toward the human fleet standing poised against the sky. They are what the galaxy needed. They are what we needed, and perhaps what every world will need in the future. That evening, Velra and her council held a meeting with the humans. It was not a council in the traditional sense. The Deathworlders did not sit. They did not debate. They listened, they answered questions, and they offered guidance. You saved our planet, Velra said finally. But I must ask, how do you endure? How do you face death, chaos, and destruction without faltering? Captain Tane leaned forward, her eyes steady. We endure because we must. Our world taught us that if we do not survive, nothing survives. Fear is irrelevant. Pain is irrelevant. Only action matters. Only survival matters. And sometimes, the survival of others depends on us. Velra realized then the depth of what had happened. The Corel had called for help, expecting cautious allies. They had received predators, destroyers, and survivors, the strongest beings they had ever encountered. Markan's eyes reflected both awe and guilt. We feared them at first, he admitted. We thought, what if they are worse than the swarm? But now I see. They are the only force that could save us. Velra's antennae twitched slowly. We feared weakness. We sent an SOS hoping for kindness, but the universe sent strength. Terrifying, relentless strength, and we should have understood earlier. We underestimated what it takes to survive in the galaxy. The Corel realized something vital. Hope and diplomacy were not always enough. Sometimes survival demanded more than words. It demanded action, courage, and the willingness to face impossible odds. And humans, the Deathworlders, embodied all of it. As night fell on Valora Prime, the cities glimmered with firelight and repair efforts. The humans moved silently through the streets, dismantling remaining threats, guiding Corel engineers, and ensuring the swarm could not rise again. Velra stood atop a ruined spire, looking out over the planet. The Deathworlders had changed everything. They had come not for reward, not for recognition, and not for glory. They had come to fight, to survive, and to save. And in that, Velra understood the truth. The galaxy had underestimated humans. They are dangerous, she whispered to Markan. And yet, they are necessary, the only force capable of facing what comes next. Markan nodded slowly. We have learned too late. But at least we have learned. The galaxy will remember them. Velra's gaze returned to the stars. Somewhere beyond the Valoran expanse, more threats waited. The swarm was not defeated entirely. Other dangers lurked in the dark. But for the first time in centuries, the Corel felt hope. Not because of their own strength, but because of the humans who had chosen to act, to destroy, and to protect. They are Deathworlders, Velra said softly. The galaxy called them monsters, perhaps that is what it needed. The humans had come not as friends or diplomats, but as destroyers and saviors, and the Corel would never forget it. In the quiet of the ruined city, Velra realized something profound. Survival was not about power, not about rules, and not about waiting for help. Survival was about courage, action, and the willingness to face what others could not. And the humans, they embodied all of it. For Velra and the Corel, the lesson was clear. The galaxy had shifted. The Deathworlders had arrived, and their presence would echo across the stars forever. The skies over Valora Prime had cleared, leaving only the faint trails of human ships as they hovered above the scarred cities. The battle with the swarm was over, at least for now, but the galaxy remained a dangerous place. The Corel Dominion had survived because of the humans, the Deathworlders, but Velra knew their work was far from finished. Admiral Elias Drake's fleet remained in orbit, engines glowing softly, weapons still armed but dormant. Captain Maritane's soldiers patrolled the streets, ensuring that no remnants of the swarm remained to threaten the Corel. Yet even with the immediate danger gone, the presence of the humans cast a long shadow. They were not allies in the traditional sense. They did not seek gratitude or diplomacy. They acted, and the galaxy adapted around their strength. Velra approached Admiral Drake as he reviewed tactical reports on the bridge of his flagship. "Admiral," she said, "your actions have saved our civilization. Words cannot express our gratitude." Drake's expression was calm, almost unreadable. "Gratitude is not necessary," he said. "We did what had to be done. You would have done the same if given the chance." Velra's antennae twitched. "Perhaps. But no other species we know could have acted with such certainty, such precision. You do not hesitate. You do not fear. You destroy what threatens survival." Drake's gaze turned toward the stars. That is what survival demands, and sometimes others depend on that survival. Markin, standing nearby, could not help but speak. Your people, your Deathworlders, are unlike anything we have seen. You come from a planet that is dangerous beyond imagination, yet you thrive. You survive, and you turn that survival into power, and now you have saved us. Drake's eyes softened slightly. Earth is harsh. Our world demands strength, courage, and the ability to face any challenge. It teaches that survival is earned, not given. And when the galaxy calls, we respond, because we know what failure looks like. Velra realized then that the human's presence was more than just a military force. It was a lesson in courage, adaptability, and relentless determination. The Corel had always valued intelligence, strategy, and diplomacy, but the humans showed that survival required more: action, decisiveness, and the willingness to face impossible odds head-on. The next days were spent in rebuilding. Corel engineers worked alongside human units, repairing cities and clearing hazards left by the swarm. Humans moved with efficiency, teaching the Corel to anticipate threats and act before danger could take hold. It was not instruction in words, but in example: how to survive, how to fight, and how to endure. Velra walked through one of the rebuilt streets, observing the Corel citizens. They whispered stories of the Deathworlders, of their precision, their courage, and their relentless action. Some were afraid, unsure how to react to such power. Others were inspired, realizing that the galaxy contained forces far greater than they had imagined. Markan joined her. They are terrifying, he said softly. And yet, they give hope. I have never seen beings like this. Perhaps the galaxy needed monsters to save it. Velra nodded. They are dangerous, yes. But in their danger lies salvation. They are Deathworlders, and their world forged them into something the swarm, and perhaps any other threat, cannot defeat. A transmission arrived from the Galactic Council. Other sectors were under threat. The swarm had not been eliminated entirely. Pockets remained, moving through the expanse, consuming worlds. The Council hesitated to respond. They had seen the human fleet and feared its power. Velra's antennae twitched. She turned to Drake. There are others who need your help. The Council hesitates. Will you respond? Drake's voice was calm but resolute. We do not wait for permission. We act where survival demands. If others face extinction, we go. That is what we do. Velra realized then the true nature of the Deathworlders. They were not constrained by politics, fear, or hesitation. Their loyalty was not to governments or treaties, but to survival itself. Where danger threatened life, they would respond, no matter the distance, no matter the risk. Captain Maratain prepared her squads for the next mission. The galaxy underestimates us, she said. They call us monsters. They fear us. And maybe they should. But we are also the only force capable of turning the tide. Survival is not optional. We will answer where others fail. Velra watched them leave. She understood now that the humans' presence would change the galaxy forever. They were not allies in the conventional sense. They were something stronger, something terrifying, something necessary. Markan's voice trembled with both awe and realization. They are the galaxy's weapon, and perhaps its shield. The Corel scientists and engineers began documenting the humans' methods, their weapons, and their strategies. Everything about the Deathworlders was a lesson in survival. How to anticipate, how to strike, and how to endure when the odds were impossible. As days passed, Velra reflected on the SOS that had brought them here. For weeks she had feared that the call would go unanswered. When help arrived, it was not polite, cautious, or diplomatic. It was violent, precise, and unstoppable, and yet without that force, Valora Prime would have been consumed. The Corel learned to respect the humans, not as conquerors, but as saviors. The Deathworlders had shown them that sometimes survival demanded action, not words, that sometimes the galaxy required beings who could act without hesitation, who could fight without mercy, and who could endure the impossible. Velra addressed her council. The humans are not like us. They are not like any species we have encountered. They are dangerous, yes, but in that danger lies our hope. The galaxy has called them monsters, and perhaps that is what it needed. We must remember this lesson. The humans departed from Valora Prime, leaving the Corel to rebuild and prepare for future threats. Yet their legacy remained. Stories of their arrival spread quickly. Survivors spoke of the Deathworlders' relentless courage, their deadly efficiency, and their unyielding drive to survive. The galaxy learned that when humans answered a call for help, they did not come to negotiate, they came to destroy the threat, no matter the cost. Velra watched the fleet disappear into the stars, leaving trails of blue energy in their wake. They are gone. For now, she said softly, but we will see them again. And when we do, we must remember what they are. Destroyers, survivors, and perhaps the galaxy's only hope. Markin nodded. We were afraid at first. We feared their methods. But now, I understand. We will need them again. And when we call, they will come. The Corel Dominion slowly rebuilt, stronger and wiser. They incorporated what they had learned from the Deathworlders: anticipation, courage, precision, and the relentless will to survive. Their civilization would never be the same, but it would be prepared. Far across the galaxy, in distant systems where threats were rising, the Deathworlders moved without pause. They did not seek glory or recognition. They acted because it was necessary. They were the galaxy's unstoppable force, the monsters it feared, the heroes it needed. And as Velra gazed at the stars, she understood the final truth. The SOS had been answered not by diplomats or mediators, but by beings who embodied survival itself. They are Deathworlders, she whispered. The galaxy feared them, and now the galaxy will survive because of them. In the endless expanse of space, the humans vanished into the darkness, their ships leaving trails of fire, legend, and hope. The galaxy would speak of them for generations, not as rulers, not as conquerors, but as destroyers who saved worlds, as warriors who acted when no one else could, and as survivors who embodied the ultimate lesson of existence: to endure, to fight, and to protect life against any odds. The Corel, and every other species that witnessed them, would remember the day the Deathworlders arrived. They came not to talk, not to negotiate, not to ask. They came to act, they came to fight, and they came to survive. The galaxy had found its guardians, and the universe would never be the same again.